Not a single investor has ever lost money with me, up until today, which is almost a miracle in the startup industry.
Hello Pia, welcome to YN News here in Lisbon. First of all, we are happy that you are here with us in Lisbon. I think it was a little bit of coincidence, or what brought you here to Lisbon?
Yeah, once in a while I get out and want to rethink stuff, and I usually don't do this in my usual environment, and yeah, I love Lisbon and I think it's a good space to get inspired, and that's why I came again.
One of the most youngest German startup entrepreneurs. You launched with, as far as I remember, correct me if it's wrong, with 29, you launched Ohlala, but you had already launched before a different app called Pepper. But let's talk about Ohlala. And in 2015, in the dating segment, how did you come to this idea to launch a dating app in Berlin?
Yeah, it was coincidence. The idea evolved. I founded my first company in the age of 25, which was called Pepper. Pepper had a take on the sex work industry and wanted to reinvent how people meet in this space. And this was the kickoff, and yeah, the idea then evolved to Ohlala, to set a new frame and reinvent in general how people meet that goes far beyond the sex work industry. And so one thought led to the other, and that made me, or inspired me to move on and launch Ohlala.
And why Berlin? Has it to, well, okay, you're born Austrian?
Exactly.
But you studied in Berlin, or?
Yeah, exactly. A scholarship brought me to Berlin. I studied ethics, business ethics, and worked as a research assistant. And shortly after graduation, I had this very unconventional idea. And that idea actually wanted me to become an entrepreneur. It was not the other way around.
Yeah, but why not an app about business ethics? How did you come? What was there a situation which you encountered? I'm not telling in your personal life, or how do you see this? Is it really? Do people meet more via mobile apps than before, or is it a trend?
Well, it used to be. I think. Yeah, I mean, it's one way to connect users online in the most efficient way and decreasing risks. So that I found interesting, and why I launched that app in that particular space. I think I have a very interesting skill set, and
your skill set.
Exactly, and especially the ethics background helped me really to develop these products in a very reflected way. And yeah, I think it inspired me to really have a take on a new market and transform maybe even a mindset. And that's yeah, what I'm interested in.
But how did you said an interesting thing, ethics and business and startups. There's been a lot of hype. Your company then got founded with 1.7 million euros by whom, by the way?
It was a couple of finance rounds. It was then altogether a little bit more than $1 million. There was a couple of business angels involved, and also the founders of a dating app. What
was unethical about the other apps? So that you, let's say the other way around. What makes, we cannot show it now because of the application Ohlala, it has a funny name, it's very inviting, it's all held in pink, and can you explain the concept of how Ohlala works, and what makes it more ethic than, let's say, Tinder?
So I wouldn't say, I don't know if it's more ethical, but Ohlala has a very different approach. So we say we want to connect users to go on paid dates. Whatever is happening on that paid date is a private matter, full stop. So we provide a platform for users to arrange their dates on their own. And at Ohlala, I think what's different than some other dating apps is we optimize everything around the product to increase the likelihood of a meeting offline. And that's exactly how we built the business model also around it. And my ethics background helped me set ethical frameworks within the company. The way we set up things in general is very different.
said, well, your company, how much people do you employ in Berlin? And it has a funny name in German, Spreefang.
Yeah.
The Spree is the river in Berlin, which there are heavens in Berlin, and Fang.
Yeah.
And which is very refreshing. And how much people work on the project currently?
Yeah, it's a lot of freelancers involved and a new way of working together. So it depends on which project phase we're in or what we're evaluating. Could be anything between 4 to 20 people.
Is there a kind of data analysis you have made before? Do you match in any way or do you don't match? You don't match at all?
We don't match. So power to the users is what I fundamentally believe in. We do not want to get involved in a matching process. That is very important to us. We want people to manage everything on their own without us getting involved. Just to shortly explain the concept, also what's very different to other dating sites. So if you go online on Ohlala, you can't look, you have to be active in order to see something. You can't just look up, for instance, if you were a man and you were looking for a date, you just can't go online and scroll through the profiles. And
like the other applications it was
exactly.
useful. Yeah.
So everyone is actually basically anonymous, and then you have to be active. So you'd send out a dating request. You'd say time, budget, duration, and your expectations in free text. So you'd formulate your dating request, and then you'd send it out, and that dating request is visible to anyone who's online right now. And then women can look at the dating requests, and then if they find some date proposal interesting, they then apply to the date. And then people can enter both ways into the chat. So yeah, I mean, this is basically how it goes. And so, as you said or asked, what if there's like bad behavior on the site? We do have a reputation system. This is the only way from a marketplace dynamic how you can curate a good community. So we really rely on user feedback. And yeah, we have like some feedback mechanisms. If there's users reported to a certain amount with a certain feedback, we do take actions in order to maintain a good community.
How many people are enrolled currently in Ohlala?
Some 135,000 and growing. We're growing organically.
Men or women? Well,
so we have some 42,000 women by now.
Wow.
And we grew organically, so we haven't spent anything really in marketing.
Why can't women pay for dates?
Yeah, we really want to do this, and for me, I'm actually curious if and when there's the day that more women pay for dates than men. When I started off the concept 2014 with my first company, we opened up actually for both genders, and so anyone could date anyone. And what was fascinating learning about
women
society,
did not want to pay, is it that?
Yeah, but also the fascinating thing about society is that we had a lot of men signing up, and when we built the products, we always verified our users via a phone call to learn from them. And yeah, we had the guys on the phone saying, awesome, now I get to go on a date and be paid for it, best of both worlds. And they really love the concept, and women are being always a little bit victimized. Oh, poor she goes on a date and is being paid for it, which is a very interesting thought. And back in the days, we didn't have a single dating request or from a woman asking out a guy, but we had a lot of then related product issues because the guys were very frustrated. Why don't I get a request, etc. pp. And point being here is that although I'd love to be, the market was not there to provide it differently. And now it takes also a lot of tech investment to build a product just because to meet the societal expectations of making this happen both ways. And really reflect over the last 4 years how we've developed the concept of Ohlala. And it's going to have a very certain adaptation, certainly. It's going to be pivot. It's going to pivot 100% a little bit, and the final decision hasn't been made in which direction it's going to go. There's been 2 or 3 attempts to copy Ohlala, but they gave up already again. And yeah, I mean, we see ourselves in between conventional dating sites and escort sites, so the truth is in between. But the fascinating thing, what we've learned, is that because people are so straightforward about their first date, they have a great experience because expectations are crystal clear. They know exactly what they're getting themselves into, compared to like a Tinder date. You meet offline, you don't know, is the person opposite looking for friendship whatsoever, trying to overcome the ex-girlfriend or boyfriend and all whatever it is.
In an order, it's different way.
And
it could also be a person which is cheating or something, you never know.
Yeah, you never know. But the thing is, people are crystal clear about the date they want to have, and then so that's why they clarify expectations up front, which makes that then a cool date, because there's not no hard conversations about whatever, but just like this date. And so what we've learned is that a lot of relationships actually evolved afterwards. I'm looking how the product's evolving, and so it's going to pivot a little bit further and going along. Maybe at one point Ohlala is gonna be just a normal dating.
I find the name is just couldn't be better, because it's really this it's this in-betweenness. Ohlala. How many cities do you have in Germany?
We're 15 biggest cities right now, active and successful.
Okay, and the biggest one, which were still Berlin, or?
Yeah, I mean, we started in Berlin, so that's where we have the biggest user base, but the highest transaction volumes are in the very conservative Munich.
Your target is to expand Ohlala to other countries in Europe? Or do you want to go, the ICO, what was the target of the ICO? Why did you start it?
There were a lot of thoughts behind. So I bought back the company 2 years ago.
You bought back from the first founders?
From the investors, yes.
And why did they jump off?
They didn't jump off. It was just a very awkward circumstances. You can also read a lot about it in the media. It has been covered, but letting the past behind, everything that happened at the company made me buy it back. And and then we didn't have a business model back then. I quickly tried to find a way how to monetize that, and we did that, so check. And it was, the model was profitable very soon, check. Then we optimized the costs, check. And then you wonder as a founder, okay, you want to scale up again. And I found ICOs an interesting way how to tokenize a company and everything that came along with it. For me, and I'm still looking at it. We postponed it for an infinite,
You explained these tokens you wanted to, and you wanted to launch it with Ethereum in the beginning.
Yeah, it was the idea to do so. Right now I'm looking more at security tokens. With everything that happened in the ICO space and all the scams that came along, I was looking for something more serious, and I think that from security tokens, it's going to be a very interesting field to be explored for startups. Security tokens is more a way to raise money, and instead of giving away equity, the usual way is if you want to fund your startup or have access to capital, at least in Germany, you would raise money in form of a capital increase usually.
Speed invest or something like this?
Yeah, it's so a capital increase, then you get shares in exchange for the money you invest in a company.
The last interview you gave, you said you are not looking now for private investors, which invest directly into Ohlala in your company.
No, I'm looking for something in between. So I'm actively involved in shaping how security tokens are set up. So this is super early stage. We did the ICO because we've done our homework, we're profitable, and now it's for us to scale. And we know how much it costs to roll out in one country and in one city, and so you can do the simple math. If I have 100 million, it's most likely that I can finance a global launch, and also be sustainable within the field that I'm acting. So that is, the acting arm would be then the Global Education Foundation, to really improve relationships of people. So that was the thought behind. We wanted to run an ICO and sell the tokens. We didn't find the right token and legal structure to do this feasibly, and that's why I'm now also the whole market is shifting from ICOs to STOs, which is security token offerings, which just has more security and rights to investors, which is an adaptation to ICO. So long story short,
if I buy these security tokens, I would get to be a stakeholder of Ohlala or Spreefang.
Exactly. And there's different tokens, but I don't want to confuse you too much. But,
yeah, it's not my world, really.
Yes, if you would have a stake in the company, and for me, actually, this is something that I really loved. If anyone can have a say in Ohlala, and also I think that I've taken decisions over the years that I could be totally transparent about, and why not? So that is something that I'm looking at this year, especially.
And is there a country which you're looking at starting? Why is there not a European? We have all these European media laws, European data security laws, but still all these differences. Do you see this as a hindering factor, really?
Yeah, I mean, Europe is great in regulating things, which kills or makes it for really startups really hard to scale, because you have to go country by country, and the GDPR didn't really necessarily help in scaling faster. So unfortunately, it's really tricky in Europe with all the bureaucracy in Germany and the regulations in Germany, and of course then.
I would guess that Germany is particular.
Yes.
I wonder, why did you not start it in a different country? Like, why did you not start it in Austria?
Yeah, I mean, good point.
They have a good startup industry.
Yeah, it was still. Vienna is also very conservative. So back in the days, why do you decide to do things? I mean, I was a student, I was broke as you can possibly be. And then I started my first company. It's like not that I had the world of opportunities ahead of me, so I had to work with what I have to get things started. And I don't regret launching in Berlin. It's a very open-minded city, but it's time for me to move on. I'm looking for talent, and yeah, I'm exploring still.
What kind of area of talent are you looking?
Yeah, especially tech talent, of course, to build
programmers.
Exactly. And not just that, but that's what I'm explicitly looking for. And then just a good environment to build things. I think Berlin is by these days overhyped, and I'm looking for a little bit more of a calmer space to build in all peace and calmness that I can.
Okay. So VC funding is for you VC funding ethical? You were in Davos.
So the dynamic of VCs, well, it's one way to finance it. It really depends. Like, there's no general answer. Ethical, so the thing is, the nature of a company is, what's the purpose of the company? You want to build a company that's sustainable and lasting, or, which is most likely the VC case, of course, you want to build a company to exit, because VCs, venture capitalists, are investing also other people's money, and they have fund cycles, meaning 6 to 8 years, when they have to repay their shareholders, or should be repaying their shareholders.
So it's upscale, which is to...
you have to exit.
Going up the Matterhorn.
I mean, you have to.
Mount Everest.
If you take VC money, they want their money back eventually with a hopefully a big great return. So you are set to sell your company and not, for instance, build a sustainable global player that lasts long term. Yeah, it's one way to finance something.
So you were invited to Davos.
Yeah.
What was your impression there? Is it worth going though if you're invited as a startup founder, young entrepreneur, or is it really just a show? How was it?
Yeah, I was in Davos around the World Economic Forum this year, and I have to say I belong to the Un-Davos group. It's the underground Davos group. We are the people who challenge a little bit the World Economic
So you will not go to the talks then, or what does the underground Davos peer do?
Yeah, so there's the World Economic Forum, and around it there's a lot of events happening. So we hosted our own events on the side of World Economic Forum. Yeah, I mean, I'm still processing from everything that I've seen. For me, I've had the most inspiring 5 days, I think, in my entire career. I met fascinating people. And
why? Why was it so fascinating than anything before you met in Berlin?
I mean, it's in a very small space, one of the brightest minds you can think of.
But those were funders you met there.
From famous politicians, initiators of the World Economic Forum.
So, but they come then, they leave their normal Davos meetings, which are on Davos channel, and stream to the normal media, and go then, let's say, I don't know, imagine not pavilions or something like this, and go then to your young entrepreneurs to get to know you, really.
Yeah, this year we hosted our own little conference. It was called, or it's called Solva Series. I think it's the second time around. It was initiated last year. So we set up our own conference and offered the stage to inspiring entrepreneurs. And and we had visits from the attendees of the World Economic Forum, of course, and then it was just us also hanging out there. So it was really cool. Good things in the making, good projects to being introduced.
So if they invite you next year, you would go again?
I will go again, definitely, yes. I respect or I really look up to any founder who's really tackling the bigger problems in this world. One of my really most favorite startups is Share the Meal. It's an initiative from Sebastian Stricker. He's a good friend of mine. He's a brilliant and excellent founder. So that could be a role model. Portuguese founder involved, Mario.
Refood is also such a startup.
Yeah, I heard about it actually.
That's very nice.
I really like it.
I almost worked with
him. And so another one that I find interesting is Book a Street Artist, giving power in the hands of artists actually. So it's Mario, a Portuguese founder, also involved. I like the concept. That's the things I really admire.
Did you learn that much with this experience with Pepper that you had? Did it give you this failure? Let's say it was a failure. The strength to start really Ohlala in a good way.
I don't think that the Pepper is a failure. So I sold my shares. The company is still operating actually.
Oh, okay.
So all of my companies that I ever founded are still operating, and not a single investor has ever lost money with me up until today, which is almost a miracle in the startup industry. And I wouldn't call it failure. It's an attempt to try something, and the mindset, and even the word needs to be not used in this context anymore, because if 10% of all the startups succeed, or maybe 5% of any startup that's being founded, it's highly likely you're not going to succeed, whatever success means. So I mean, it's just an attempt to try something, and
learning by doing.
Exactly. And for me, I mean, I didn't know when I founded the first, so I knew myself back in the days, and I was very naive maybe to think that everyone has the same understanding of what I'm trying to do. And it was just not like that. And the funny thing also, because it's such an intimate topic and highly sensitive, I didn't expect the huge emotional reactions. Look for something that really touches you, where you see the purpose in really solving that particular problem.
It's the USP. Huh?
Yeah, but it's like you have to have a lot of love to build something, because you could not possibly imagine how difficult it is to build a venture or a startup. Doesn't matter which kind it is. It's you have to do it over a sustained period of time, and if you don't love it, you're most likely going to give up, because you are going to face a lot of resistance. So and then I'd also cheer for looking for projects that have like a meaningful impact. From all the things we have to solve issues in the world today, look for something that has like a purpose or positive impact. Investments are, I think, not overhyped. I think it's the next thing. It could be, possibly. I think that you can still build meaningful, positive impact companies and earn a lot of money, even more. And so what's the difference? So usually a company might be, if you look under like the eyes of a pure capitalist, could say that any company's purpose is to solely maximize profits. And impact companies are looking for impact and also earn money. And so the impact is ahead of the maximizing profit. I actually wrote my master thesis exactly about this concept.
Your parents, they are entrepreneurs, aren't they?
Yes.
In which area?
My dad is a chemist. He is into fire protection materials, so we protect buildings and oil refineries with fire protection materials.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, worst case scenario, if there's an explosion, it should not explode but implode.
So did you, with 16, already think about, I'm going to be an entrepreneur? Because normally kids try to do what their parents do.
Yeah, so no, I didn't want to be an entrepreneur actually. That's why before I did the ethics part, I was in investment banking. I was looking for something more stable. But then I went to the investment bank, and then I learned that back in the days, an investment bank had 5 or 6.1 billion in toxic papers. And
which bank was this?
It was that Dresdner Kleinwort, And during the
Which
time,
one?
Dresdner Kleinwort, it was the investment banking division of Dresdner Bank.
Okay.
And and then we were more or less merged, sold, joint ventured, whatever you want to call it, with Commerce Bank. And then I was like, well, that's interesting. There is no such thing as security and stability. It's just, I think, a concept. And so,
So you left your secure haven of a good paid job at Dresdner Bank to go into the risky seas of starting an own company.
Yeah, I mean, there were 3 years in between. I then was a year a bartender, I explored the world, and then I came to Berlin, studied, and then I founded. So trying to get back to the question of my parents or my family, like, kindly inspired me to be an entrepreneur. I think they inspired me to be a rebel with purpose and with the heart on the right spot. I've always been the person that has been questioning everything around her, and I continue to do so. And the only thing that my dad always also said over the last years, no matter how difficult it was, he always said, be true to yourself and speak your mind. And I continued.
Okay, Pia, muito obrigada, dankeschön.